Okay, it's 1:30, so I'd like to call the meeting to order today. Board of Directors meeting on Wednesday, August 23rd. And I'd like to recognize that we are conducting this meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Shuswap and Huipechesett First Nations, and we're grateful for the opportunity to do so. We also have directors calling in from other territories, and we'd like to recognize and acknowledge those First Nations and express our gratitude and respect. I'd like to give notice to attendees and all delegates that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. And before we do introductions, I would like to review the guidelines for participating in the ACRD board and committee meetings via electronic or hybrid format. We have a lot of people that come in to our meetings via Zoom, which is a great tool. But there are some guidelines that I think have always been there. We just haven't always followed them as we should be. So I'd just like to take a moment to go over them. And if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Firstly, directors that are participating via Zoom with their cameras on should clearly raise and lower their hand to indicate their vote. Please leave your hand up for a few moments to allow staff and chair time to review votes in the room and also on the screen. Sometimes if it's a contentious vote, we have to take a few more minutes just to make sure that we have the right numbers. Directors who are participating in the meeting with their camera off, should you not turn on your camera to vote, your vote will be counted as affirmative. Directors that have joined by audio only must indicate their vote verbally. If you need to step away during a meeting, please turn on your camera and raise your hand to signal an opportunity to speak. Advise the chair by stating you're leaving the meeting. When you return to the meeting, turn your camera on and raise your hand to signal that you want to speak, and advise the chair that you have returned to the meeting. And this is to ensure that we always have a quorum at our meetings. And also the Director of Corporate Services has to record when a director leaves the meeting and when they return from a meeting. If you're an alternate director and wish to watch the board or committee meeting, in addition to the electoral area director, you're required to join as an attendee or member of the public, not as a panelist, and only join meetings as a panelist if you're willing to if you're filling in for elected area director. Directors attending the meeting in person refrain from joining the Zoom meeting or join as attendee rather than as a panelist. Utilize your microphone to speak to the board so that the directors who have joined electronically can see and hear you speak. Declaring the result of a vote, the chairperson must put a matter to vote when debate on a matter is closed by asking directors to raise their hand to vote in favor and the next raise their hand to vote in opposition before declaring the final result of the vote. Recording of votes, any director can call for a recorded vote on any question, but the request must be made before the question is put forth. The corporate administrator records the names of the directors voting in favor and those who are opposed. Is there any questions on anything in this document? I would suggest keeping it on hand in case anything comes up later and you need to refer to it. So next we'll go down the room and do introductions. My name is Debbie Haggard. I'm the Vice Chair of the Regional District Board of Directors. Our Chair, Jack, is not able to attend the meeting in person, but we're happy to have him here via Zoom. So we'll start over here with Director Steer.
Yes, good afternoon. Director Steer from this District of Tiffin.
Jack McClement, alternate Beaufort.
Hello, Penny Cote, the Sprout Lake Electoral Area Director on the Regional District.
Good afternoon, Alex Dyer, Planning Manager of the ACRD.
Jenny Brown, General Manager of Community Services.
Hi, Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services.
Great, thank you. Next is the approval of agenda. Is there any additions to the agenda by directors? And Director of Corporate Services, we have a late item under 9.1B, late submission for RE 23001 regarding the rezoning application for 6505 Bayette Road. do you have any other items for additions?
No additional items.
Great, thank you. Could we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? We have a second. Moved by Director Cote, second by Director Steer. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Any declarations of conflict of interest or gifts exceeding $250 in value as per section 106 of the community charter? Great, seeing none, we'll go on to the adoption of minutes. First is the committee of the whole meeting on June 28th, 2023. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could we have a motion that the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting held on June 28th, 2023 be adopted?
Move adoption.
Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director Cote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Board of Directors meeting on July 26, 2023. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I have a motion that the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting held on June 26, 2023 be adopted?
Move adoption.
Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director Sega. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Agriculture Development Committee meeting held on August 15, 2023. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I have a motion that the minutes of the Agricultural Development Committee meeting held on August 15, 2023 be adopted?
Move adoption.
Moved by Director Steer, second by Director Cote. All in favor of the motion? Question? Director Cote?
Just in the reports on page 29, is there any more information on the growth of the blue-green algae?
I don't have any additional information. Alex, would you be able to speak to that?
I don't have any info right now, but we can look into it, report back if you like. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cote. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is petitions, delegations, and presentations. Heather, you have a couple of introductions to make today.
Yes, I do. Thank you. So they're both in the room today. First up, we have Kristen Kerr Donahue. So she joined the ACRD in July, and she's our part-time administrative assistant. Kristen grew up between rural Quebec and Gabriola Island and has lived in the Alberni Valley for the last 16 years. Her and her partner love the area and the lifestyle that Port Alberni offers. Kristen enjoys hiking, fishing, gardening, and mushroom picking with her partner and 3 young children. She comes to us most recently from the Coastal Community Credit Union, so she's very familiar with our building. She is enjoying getting to know all the wonderful staff here and learning the ins and outs at the ACRD, and is expanding her skill set to assist all departments. So welcome, Kristen. And then next up is Charlene Harrison. So Charlene was born and raised in Port Alberni and has spent most of her time living in the Alberni Valley. In her spare time, her #1 favorite activity is exploring the hiking trails in the Alberni Valley. The Log Train Trail holds a special spot in her heart, as her husband's grandfather, Frank Steeny, was a longtime member of the trail building community in the valley. When Charlene's not hiking, she enjoys gardening, camping, and fishing. After 16 years in the automotive industry, she's looking forward to a career by working with us at the regional district, and she's excited to be here. So very, very welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Heather. Welcome, Kirsten and Charlene. We hope you have a long career at the regional district. We look forward to working with you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Staff Sergeant Mike Thompson from the Port Alberni Detachment RCMP regarding the Port Alberni RCMP report for the second quarter, April to June 2023. Staff Sergeant Thompson, would you like to go over the report?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the invite. I know that you have had the report for some time, so I'll just sort of skim over some of what I think are the highlights, and then I find that if we just have some Q&A and some discussion about the report, that's often most beneficial. I guess 684 calls for service, so that represents about 20% of the calls that we received during that time period. And fortunately, we've got the total number of criminal offenses are down about 12%. The big point to identify is that property offenses are down 27%. And that historically, my predecessor, Eric Rochette. So I guess maybe just even by way of background, I should mention that Inspector Rochette has been transferred. And so for the interim period, I'll be performing the duties of the officer in charge of the detachment until they find a replacement for him. But one of the things that has been sort of an issue, ongoing issue, has been the property crime out in some of the rural areas. And so with enhanced seasonal policing that we've had in the last 6 weeks or so, we've seen a pretty marked downward number there. Persons offenses are down 6%. I mentioned the seasonal policing. So we've historically tried to partner with the West Coast Marine Unit, who volunteers their vessels. We've had pretty good luck with them this year, as well as with the integrated traffic enforcement unit to try and get some proactive patrols, as well as we've got a couple of key areas in Cherry Creek and Beaver Creek where we get a lot of complaints about excessive speed. And so between that and trying to conduct some of our two-strike initiatives and educational initiatives, we've had some pretty good results there. And then we've tried to partner with the folks from DFO and the Coast Guard. Preliminary discussions with them. They're both interested in partnering with us for proactive patrols on the vessels. Just a matter of sort of nailing down their timelines with our timelines. But we have taken our boat out quite a bit. Our Indigenous policing unit has had a number of patrols out there, and we also had our boat out on the lake. So trying to have more of a presence for safety on the lake, and just let the community know that we're out and about in some of the rural districts. Some good news. We've been approved for a couple of new provincial positions. It's been a couple of years in the making, but we just got notification from our headquarters in Victoria. I don't know when we'll see those bodies, but two police resources as well as one office resource. So we're pretty keen to get those people up and running, and that'll add. We'll have 8 provincial positions then at that point. So total calls for service. The good news is that we're downward trajectory for the property offenses, but unfortunately we've got an upward trend from Q2 2019 onward. We're seeing 475 in Q2 of 2019, and now we're at 684. So despite best efforts with proactive patrols, it's still upward trend. So, and that's pretty consistent across the province, unfortunately, but working to try and put a lid on that. Happy to answer any specific questions that the group might have.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your report. I always look forward to seeing it and what the trends are doing. And I'm extremely excited to see you've got some additional resources from the province. That's terrific news. Congratulations on that. I know you're always struggling with bodies, so that's good news. We have a question from Director Sega and then Director Beckett. So go ahead, Director Sega.
Thank you. I found it interesting that the trends were downward, and I was just wondering whether the road closure might have had any impact on property crimes and what your take on that would be.
Yeah, I'd have to speculate. I would say that likely the reduction of traffic certainly has helped across the ACRD. I would say that the net effect of that, though, certainly businesses and the number of people that are sort of suffering on the business side is a reflection of that as well. But difficult for me to say to what extent. Yeah, I'd have to speculate. I would say yes, that it has affected it, but to what extent I couldn't tell you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Director Beckett?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Staff Sergeant. My name is Bob Beckett, and I'm the director for Bamfield. About 3 weeks ago, our CAO, Daniel, and myself, and one of our community's members was invited aboard the Marine unit that had stopped in for a visit. We really appreciated that. During our discussions with the corporal, we talked about community policing with a focus on the Marine unit, but we got around to the fact that when the Marine unit does visit, and they try to do that on a fairly regular basis, they really enjoy having access to the police vehicle that had been parked at the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center. And that has, I don't know when, but been removed for some time now. And we both agreed, both the corporal and Daniel and myself, that it would be great if there was a surplus vehicle that could be left there and made available to members who are either arriving by Marine or other means, so they have access to our community. So during their stop in, they could, visit Anakla, visit the community. And I guess I'm looking for direction from you, staff, as to Staff Sergeant, not our staff, just what it is that we could do to lobby the RCMP to see if they wouldn't mind finding a surplus PC to leave in our community. And I'll stop there. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Yeah, and frankly, just plain old Mike is fine too. No need for formalities, but so the vehicle, all assets, it's a bit of a tricky situation with vehicles increasingly now because of some of the events that have taken place across Canada. They're less inclined to allow surplus vehicles. Our program for disposing of surplus vehicles has completely changed, and we're now mandated, depending on the number of kilometers, to turn those vehicles in, and are not really allowed to keep old vehicles. Now, that said, if there's a way that we could work out having a vehicle that's part of our regular fleet left there when we know that there'll be influx of people from the West Coast Marine Unit, maybe that's something that we can work on. I know in other jurisdictions I've worked in, the Yukon, for example, we met with the provincial government, and there was a program where they were looking to have a proactive mental health resource partnered with RCMP officer, and the province stepped forward and purchased an additional vehicle for us to use. We outfitted the vehicle, but the province bought the vehicle. So it was about a 50-50 split. And that's something certainly that we would be willing to explore, depending on the number of times that West Coast Marine will be there. I'm happy to chat with, was it Mike that you were speaking with, or? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm happy. Mike's a great resource, and I really like his energy and just, how keen he is to be out and about, and he's really helped us out. So I can reach out to him and see what their schedule is like, circle back, and perhaps if I can get a contact point at the ACRD, we can explore this further offline.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions for Staff Sergeant Thompson? Director Cote?
Thank you, through the chair. So thank you very much for your presentation. And just want to send my gratitude for the patrols that have been on Sprout Lake. It brings a real presence of calm to the community. And also thank you for your participation with Lightning on the Lake with the boat races. It was a success again this year, and it's nice to see the community behaving in a very rational way, especially with RCMP participation in the crowd. So just thank you for that, and look forward to working with you continually. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? Great. Thank you so much. We'll let you get back to work and doing the business for the community. Thank you so much, Staff Sergeant Thompson, for coming and visiting us today. Thank you.
so much for hosting me. I appreciate it.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Van Giselbrat, and I'm a city councillor, and Catherine Pears from Community Energy, representing Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities Climate Leadership Steering Committee funding request presentation. Are you going to be speaking, Van, today, or is it going to be Catherine?
I'll be speaking today. Unfortunately, Catherine wasn't able to make it due to holidays. Is my audio coming in okay?
We can hear you perfectly. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much for having me come today. My name is Ben Gesselbrock. I'm a city councillor with Nanaimo and also on the regional district board. And I'm coming here in the capacity as co-chair of the Vancouver Island and Coastal Community Climate Leadership Initiative. I'm on the steering committee along with elected representatives from each of the regional districts. And we have been working as a group for a term now, initiating, I think, in the spring of 2019 as the Vancouver Island and Coastal Community Climate Leadership Plan. And this group met throughout COVID and did a lot of work and produced some documents which are part of your agenda as attachments. What this group is focused on is that we are working as an interregional network and convener, facilitator and advocate around climate action, and working to support information sharing between regional districts, best practice, and moving into supporting an annual summit, and then interregional working groups on specific projects that are identified through the group, moving forward, initiatives that are needed around climate action. What we're asking, each regional district is being asked for a contribution to maintain this network, and the network's administered by the Community Energy Association, which is a nonprofit that's had has worked for a long time working on climate action and mobilizing regional districts and municipalities. And what the request is based on population. So I believe that the request is for 5,900 from the Alberni Clayoquot. And there's been several municipalities or regional districts have already contributed. I think Cathet, the Sunshine Coast, Mount Waddington. And this funding will allow for the maintenance of the steering committee, the administration of the steering committee, which is the group of elected representatives, some members from the universities and staff. It also goes towards administering a staff network that is already meeting and working on certain items. Also, there'll be an annual summit that will gather together staff and elected officials around, different topics in terms of climate preparedness and climate action, and also to maintain a digital resource library. And it was identified in the work before that especially smaller regional districts could use additional assistance in terms of their climate initiatives. So I trust that you've read the proposal. It's got all the details in there. That's part of your package, and also the terms and reference for the group. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. about the group and also the funding proposal.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there'll be some questions. Any questions from the directors? Director McClellan.
Yeah, just for my information, do we already support this organization with money?
Yes, I believe we do.
Yes, there was an initial contribution last term that went towards the production of a territorial analysis of the region's vulnerabilities to climate change and a survey of local government priorities, along with a summit that occurred where regional districts, municipalities came and set different goals for the region. There was also a First Nations engagement that was led through Alderhill that occurred, and the commencement of the staff network. And so before, the group was focused on creating a plan, and I think it was identified in the work that really the maintenance of this network is really what's going to support regional districts and moving forward, their different climate projects. And identifying, areas of collaboration and advocacy. And so the group is now focused on the maintenance of this network and annual summit. So this is the second cycle of funding request, and it'll go till the end of 2024.
Go ahead.
So is this an elected body? Is this just a group that started that some regional districts are supporting, or?
So yeah, in the terms of reference,
It sounds to me like it's making me nervous. Okay.
This is something that's already been supported by the Alberni Clayoquot. In the terms of reference that was attached to your package, it outlines clearly that this is something that each regional district has an appointed elected official to this. So currently, the appointed director, I believe, is Director.
It would be Director Steer.
Director Steer, Heather, Director Steer. And Director Cote is also an alternate. And that steering committee, which is a group of elected representatives, makes the decision in terms of strategic planning and what initiatives the group undertakes.
Any other questions from the directors for Ben? Director Jack.
Hi, Ben. It's good to see you. I'm wondering if the group is planning on doing anything formally or informally during UBCM or any other kind of get-togethers. It would be good to have that kind of reported out to a wider group too, just to have that discussion, Thanks.
Absolutely. So the group reports regularly at AVICC, and it's done so for the last 3 years on the different projects that it's undertaken. And presenting at UBCM would be an interesting undertaking. Given it's more provincially focused, we found that AVICC is probably the best fit. And we'll continue to report regularly. And the annual summit that is proposed, we did one over COVID, which was virtual, and was well attended and effective. However, what we're looking to do is sync it up with AVICC, and in terms of the timing, to just make best use of people gathering and keep costs low.
Thank you, Director Cote.
Thank you, through the chair. Thanks, Ben, for the presentation that you brought and the request today. I did attend the last meeting, which was at the end of AVICC. So at the end of the conference, we met, and it's a very progressive group that are looking at challenges that we're all facing. So hopefully we can come up with some solutions. Thank you.
Director Steer.
Yeah, this might not be directly to you there, Ben, but I'm wondering if through the budget process where we might be able to have a more fulsome discussion of the funding request that has been initiated, and if it might sit there in a more appropriate place at this point in time.
Thank you. It is later on in the agenda. So if there's not any further questions for Ben, it is on our agenda later on, and we'll get back to you with results of the motion for your funding request. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Marlena Locke and Laurel Davidson from the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol year-end presentation. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. All right, can everybody see this okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, so thank you for having us. We just wanted to talk to everyone a little bit about our program, what we do, and what we've been up to over the last summer. Just need to be on. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, there we go. All right, so I'll start by introducing us. So my name is Marlena. It's my 4th year with the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol. I'm the lead hand, and I'm Laurel, 1st year. Today we are missing Aaron and Logan. Those are the other 2 members of our team. They wish they could be here.
So we want to give you a little outline of our training that we did to prepare for the summer. We started with some conflict resolution here and with Heather, and did some trailer training. We did a Zoom call with Kyle from Transport Canada to educate us all. We learned the system at the launch with Marlena, and we did some bear safety, which was very educational for me personally. So Mike and I, a couple of years ago, came up with our mission statement, and we decided that our goal is to establish a safe and enjoyable, environmentally responsible marine culture for all users and residents of the Sprout Lake area, and we do that in the following 5 ways. So presence at the lake, meaning physically being visible to people who either just want to wave or being there to, like the picture shows, mark deadheads, or just be there in case if anybody calls us in need. Yeah, and in a recent survey we did, it was proven that a presence on the lake is most valuable to the community, and it's our favorite part of our job as well. So the next way we like to achieve our goal is through education. So we have QR codes all around the launch that have links to information. We also like to spread some information over social media, and I think the biggest part of our education is going into the school. So in the start of June, I was able to visit, I think, 4 different schools and talk to classes about safety requirements, invasive species, environmental initiatives, and most importantly, how to be safe on the water. Yeah, it's a really fun part of our job, and I feel like it's very effective in getting some safety out there. So this year we set up a PFD loader station, or a new one perhaps, and we had some really good feedback from that. We just like to be there for assisting tourists, say they've never been to the lake, and you know which parts to go to and whatnot. Another big part of our job is coordinating the boat launch. As many of you probably know, it gets really busy there sometimes. It's been a lot slower since the road closure, but we still like to be there just to mostly diffuse any stress. Just let people know that we're not in any rush. If they need any help, we're there for them. And a lot of people really appreciate it, especially when they're there on their own. Sometimes our job is just to hold their boat for them. So we did hit a new record for our views, specifically on TikTok. Just by one post, we reached about 3,000 people, and Marlena was able to get out to a few community events and have an interview on the radio and do the goes to the Indie Valley Vibe, which is definitely a significant appearance for us. Mhm. So we had a few improvements this year. We had a new tent put up. We've got an updated logo, and we got our pontoons replaced, which is definitely important for us. We save ourselves on the water. And the new information sign just out in front of the roundabout there at the boat launch. Yeah, so this year we always kind of take on one big project, and our project this year was creating a new map / brochure. So basically the goal of it was to create a user-friendly map that includes not only the map on one side, but all the brochure information that we would typically hand out, just to save some paper and make it more likely for people to read the information we want them to know. So yeah, this is a project that Mike and I have been working on, as well as many other people, and it's still in progress. We're just waiting for more reviews, more feedback, and then hopefully we can get it out either by the end of the summer or next summer. We're really excited about this project. Yeah, we always like to highlight a few of our achievements every year. I think our biggest achievement this year was being deemed the best lake in BC as per CBC. We got 19,000 votes, and this was kind of a long process. So I did 2 radio interviews with CBC. I went on 93.3 The Peak and had a phone interview with Times Colonist, which, in my opinion, like ultimately led to awareness and got lots of votes. And yeah, we're crowned the best lake in BC. So that's exciting. Along with that, we also got a ton of garbage this year, which I know isn't something to celebrate that there's so much garbage, but we're happy that we could take it away from the lake. As you can see, we got a full truckload in just a few hours. We hit 400 followers on Facebook. We marked all deadheads, which saves a few props, which is awesome. And there's no major accidents on the lake, which is always a win. We had a few calls, mostly that the RCMP attended to, but everyone was okay, so that's good. And yeah, we hit roughly about 400 plus hours actively patrolling, so physically being on the boat and boating around. That's quite a few hours. So yeah, we're proud of all of our achievements. So some of the feedback we have heard from the public was just, like it says, a growing concern for the functionality and condition of the boat launch. I know it's under BC Parks, but just something that we kind of try to bring down the line. The PFD loader station, I had a few people just express their gratitude for having specifically extra kids PFDs available. And then just, just some more stuff to increase community engagement over the lake and, get our words out there. All right. We just want to say special thanks to Mike for everything he does and everyone else who makes this program possible. It's an amazing program. We learn a lot through it, and we're just super grateful to work on Sprout Lake and on the territories of the Sushot and Pacific First Nation. And at this time, we can take any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your enthusiasm for the Sprout Lake. It's awesome. And thank you for all the promotion that you did over the summer for our community. Any questions for Marlena and Laurel or comments? Director Cote?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you to the Marine Patrol and all that you do for the community as a whole. It's not just Sprout Lake that are benefiting from having the Marine Patrol there. Most of the people that launch at the boat launch, if you live at Sprout Lake, you usually launch once and that's it. But because of lack of marina space, I'm sure there's many people that were launching multiple times, and the assistance that you give them is crucial. to keep things moving and the order. I know that tempers can run short at this time, especially when it's been so hot. I just want to know, do you have any statistics on numbers of say turtles or koi or invasive species or any type of statistics around environment?
Yeah, I can speak on that. So this year we didn't get a chance to do our turtle monitoring just due to our schedule, which was a bummer. But as for koi fish, the concern is still there. I've had many people report to us their sightings, and at this time, all we're doing is kind of providing them with the contacts for who they can report their sightings to. We actually have a section on our maps or brochure side of our map that has a little bit more information on who they go to, because it's been a bit unclear in the past. I don't have any statistics. However, I can say, me personally, I saw about over 20 koi fish at the end of Two Rivers, which is scary to see. Yeah, but we're definitely going to work on keeping better statistics of what we see. And it's mostly when people report to us, because we don't often see the koi. They like to hide.
Dr. Steer.
Great. Thank you so much for the presentation and an incredible service that you provide to the communities. And I might try to recruit you guys for the Coast Guard IRB program, by the way. So just a slow pitch there. Just a quick question. One of the services, and I think I briefly saw it on there, is first aid. And I'm just wondering what your level of training is in the first aid work.
Yeah, sure. So we really stress to our program that if there's anything we don't feel comfortable doing, or if we're not trained properly, we won't do that. But we are all trained with our level 1 first aid and CPR. Yeah, we are kind of, what I explained to the rest of the team is we're there to give a Band-Aid and clean things up. But for major accidents, we definitely just resort to 911.
Thank you. Any final questions? Well, thank you so much for coming in today and giving your presentation, and hopefully we'll have you back next year.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much. Dr. Cote?
Thank you. Thank you to Michael as well, McGregor, for leading this program and doing an excellent job. Thanks.
Hear, hear. Next on the agenda is correspondence for action. We have a request for support from Black Plus Media, requesting the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District stop all advertising with Meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram. I'm not sure if Heather's on the call, but maybe you could talk about how the regional district does advertise. I don't believe we do any advertising on Facebook. We just do Facebook posts, and we do advertise with the newspaper.
I don't think Heather Thompson's here, but I can speak to that. We occasionally do some Facebook advertising. Our Fire Smart program, we've been successful in receiving grant funding for that. So to promote some of our programs and get the word out in the community, we have done some paid advertising. So that's something to consider. And I know the city of Port Alberni doesn't, but that's something that we do here. And so the letter is on the agenda, and then there is a recommendation there if the board would like more information from staff to investigate this further.
Does anyone have any comments on this topic, or would like to make the possible motion or a different motion? Dr. Cote?
Thank you. I would make the motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors directs staff to investigate the Black Press Media request letter and report back to the board at a future meeting.
Seconded by Director Steer. Any final questions or comments? Dr. McClellan?
Yeah, I'm not sure why we need to advertise on Facebook or whatever, but this is quite a dispute going on with the federal government, and I think that's where the argument should be. Not, we should be cautious how we get involved in it, I guess. Other than that,
Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is correspondence for information. We have a joint letter from the City of Port Alberni to the Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, and Honorable David Eby, Premier of British Columbia, regarding requests for secondary access route. Mayor Minion stated that she is going to challenge Premier Eby to drive that detour road at 9 o'clock at night, like he expects other people to, when Highway 4 is closed. We'll see if he takes us up on that offer. Next is the Peace River Regional District, BC Wildfire Service Firefighting Equipment Resolution to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities. A letter from the Comox Valley Regional District regarding an initiation of regional growth strategy bylaw number 120, amendment number 2. A letter from Youthalock regarding On the Road Again, sponsorship of children going to a science camps. An annual update from the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust. A letter from Island Coastal Economic Trust regarding the new Galiano Island Studio space. A letter from Environment and Climate Change Canada, the 2023 field report on the Salish Seagull project, and a letter from the Canada Community Building Fund, First Community Works Fund payment for 2023-2024. Does anyone want to pull anything out for discussion? Dr. McClellan.
Comox Valley study on regional.
I don't know anything about that initiative. Does staff know anything? Alex?
I can give a bit of an update. So they are proposing some minor amendments to their regional growth strategy, and the way the regional growth strategy amendments work is they must refer them to all neighboring jurisdictions, and with the ACRD sharing jurisdictional boundary with the CBRD. That's why we got the amendment, and at a later date, I think they said in the fall, they'll be sending us the official bylaw that the board will need to approve before they proceed.
Okay, thank you. When I was reading it, I didn't realize that was just what it was, because I think we should be, as the ACRD and the Comox Valley Regional District should be involved in joint economic development. Is really we are, since I was down, we got nowhere to go, and if we don't get the Horn Lake connection or something that involves the Comox Valley Regional District, we'll get nothing. So we should be involved and should have some say there, at least input, and maybe conform something, which is what I thought they were doing, is suggesting that forming a joint regional district thing, which I think would be very good and might even help us.
Thank you. Anyone else want to pull anything out? Dr. Cote?
Thank you. So it's item B, the Peace River Regional District. I find it interesting that it's the Peace River Regional District, and they're talking about including the Coulson Aviation Next Gen Fire Suppression Equipment. I think that this is an excellent suggestion, and I totally support this. We have such a valuable resource at our doorstep, and yet the province of British Columbia and the Canadian government are not engaging with the Coulsons. They do have a contract, I believe, in Alberta, but we need one here. Right now, with all of the fires that are happening in British Columbia, I feel so fortunate to be one of those communities at the moment that isn't fighting with the smoke and the local fires. We are being impounded by the Cameron Bluffs fire, and hopefully after this Thursday we'll be able to actually access our highway in both directions. It's been a huge inconvenience for our whole communities. And I think that any type of fighting equipment that we can provide for our communities will be an asset to us all, and would love to see Colson's be contracted by British Columbia. Thank you.
I think we have to ask the question then, if Colson's were contracted by the province and they have equipment that can fight fires at night, maybe the province could have saved millions and millions of dollars on that Cameron Bluff fire if they would have got on fire right away instead of waiting a day. 2 days. Thank you. So I'm sure we'll be bringing that up at UBCM when we're there. Could I get a motion, Dr. McClellan?
Just on that subject, Colson does have a contract in one or two of the fires for a helicopter in the interior, but they usually go to him when they're stuck, really stuck. And they're in Australia, they're in the United States and all other countries in the world. I know what happened and everything, and why some of the government people aren't too eager to do it, but I think give them a message to get over it. Let's go.
I agree. Get over it. Whatever it was, get over it. Let's move forward. Okay, if there's nothing else, could I get a motion that Board of Directors receive items A to H for information? Moved by Director McClellan, seconded by Director Cote. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is request for decisions and bylaws. Appointment of Alberta Clayoquot Regional District Directors to the Transportation Advisory Committee and amendment of associated terms of reference. Heather.
Thank you. Okay, so the purpose of today's report is for the board to appoint 3 directors to the Transportation Committee to represent the Alberni Valley, Bamfield, West Coast, Huu-ay-aht, Toquot, Ukulithat, and the Echuclasset tribe. So keep in mind that each of the municipalities, being Port Alberni, Tofino, and Ucluelet, have all been appointed separately to appoint a representative to this committee as well. And then the other part is for the board to consider amending the terms of reference for the committee that you adopted at the last meeting to include the addition of 2 health representatives. At the last board meeting, there was considerable discussion regarding the need for having a health representative or 2 on this committee. So I've modified the terms of reference to include a First Nations Health Authority representative and a second health representative. So if the board likes that suggestion, you could consider adopting the amended terms of reference today. If you don't like that suggestion, you don't need to do that part of the resolution. So I will leave it to the board for discussion. I understand that there is some interest in being a director on this transportation committee. I know Debbie has some names to put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Director Coates has expressed interest in being on this committee, and he does have previous experience on the Transportation Committee. So I think he would be a very good participant on this committee because he has knowledge and experience. Also, Director McEwen has expressed interest in being on this committee. Unfortunately, she had to leave at 2:00, but I do see that the District of Ucluelet will also be invited to participate. So we would have 2 from Ucluelet then if she participates representing the board plus.
Yeah, and she may not have seen the invitation for Ucluelet, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have too many, maybe we could let her know
Yep.
there's that other option. Is there anyone else who would like to participate on this committee? Dr. Cote?
Yes, I would. I have the history of the previous Transportation Committee. Wasn't a member of it, but I was on the board through all of that and heard all of the discussions. I've been following the emergency management meetings right now with Josie Osborne and the emergency department. And I'd really like to participate in that. I also sit on UBCM, so I'm thinking that I might be able to talk to the executive there regarding this. But I'm just also concerned that isn't there a representative from Echuclasset already?
So the three representatives that the board is appointing today are representing the areas of Alberta Valley, Banfield, West Coast, Kuwait, Topot, Ukiuwafat, and Ushakusut. So no, there isn't a separate representative for each of the 4 treaty nations.
Is there anyone else who would like to be part of this committee? Dr. Sparrow?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. I'd like to be part of this committee because if we choose the Horn Lake Connector, it will go through Cherry Creek's watershed, which is a pretty big area actually. And I seem to know the area quite well up there, so it'd be in the benefit of Cherry Creek if it does go through their watershed to have somebody on there that could help them through that. And I have read the other minutes of the other meetings regarding the other alternative things. So I'd love to get on this committee and see what I can do.
Dr. Beckett, did you have an interest at all?
I did. You know, and obviously the alternate route goes through, you know, a portion of the Banfield Road and out the back to Cowichan. I'm happy to sit on the committee. There is value in representing, you know, the Banfield, Anakla area, but I'm also cognizant that there's a number of directors that have volunteered. So I don't know how you want to proceed with that.
Well, I think we can ask Director McHugh and let her know that there is an invitation coming to her. So that would be an opportunity for her to be on the committee. So that would leave Director Coates, Director Cote, Director Sparrow, and Director Beckett. Dr. Roth?
I see Lavanna. She might be interested.
Were you interested in being part of this?
Yes, I am interested, and I think I expressed my interest when a couple months ago when the discussion first happened at the board. But I was unaware is the understanding that Director Kutse is one of the directors from the Manoff Treaty, and he's representing the rest of the treaty nations, or the rest of the nations in that treaty. You said there's 2 people interested from Ucluelet. So I was just wondering, was I one of them, or was that 2 people from the district of Ucluelet?
There will be an invitation going to the district of Ucluelet, and Director McEwen can respond to that invitation. So she can be part of the committee from that invitation instead of being representing the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, Director.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. The Monoth nations sit as separate members of the groups, so Monoth isn't represented by one individual if that's not the wish of the board. So we have done things like that in the past to make sure that the Alberta Valley, the West Coast, and Monoth all get represented. But if you want to be a member of this committee, then yeah, I would let your name stand.
Yeah. Would you like your name to stand?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your last name. Can you say that for me, please?
Lavanna Mastrangelo.
Thank you. So at this time, we have Director Coates, Director Cote, Director Sparrow, Director Beckett, and Director Mastrangelo. Anyone else? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I've already had several calls about this committee, and people are very nervous that it's so large. And I guess I got to kind of agree. I don't know how you get that many people to agree on anything. least of all, something that when there was just a few each time, couldn't get anybody to do anything. So good luck. If we don't get that Horn Lake connection, you'll be hearing from us again. I know that there's a group wanting to start public meetings on the Horn Lake itself, Horn Lake connection. So you may be hearing from them as well. I haven't heard back from them, so not saying any more.
Okay, so Heather, we have 5 people who would like to fill 3 spaces. What is the best way to do this? Can you give me some advice?
Well, normally it's a decision of the board, so usually there's some debate. You could look at how to split it up versus Alberni Valley and First Nation representative and an outside representative, either Banfield or the West Coast. So it really is a decision that needs to be collectively made by the board.
So how would the board like to proceed? Director Roth? Or go ahead, Director Roth and Director.
I'm just thinking, why not include all 5?
Terms of reference say 3 representatives from the board.
Could we change that?
Well, it just makes the committee that much larger, and we've already had concerns. The committee is too large as it is. It's quite a large committee. Yeah. Director Jack?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Director Sparrow, Beckett, and Mastrangelo.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Jack, second by Director Steer. Can you just repeat those names for me, Heather?
So the motion was to nominate Director Sparrow, Director Beckett, and Director Mastrangelo.
Any comments from anyone on the names? Director Cote?
Not so much on the names. I would agree that we're all good candidates. But I'm looking at the advisory committee and I'm looking at how many First Nations are included. And there's quite a number. So there's a House at Dididat, Pesquit, Kupachesset, Floquet, Tishat, Nuchalnuth, First Nation Health are all within the First Nations realm. So I think they're very well represented. So the regional district, the rural areas are not very well represented. There would be a Banfield representative and one from the Valley. So that's, I think that there's an imbalance there. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jack, and then Director Steer.
Yeah, I would say that it depends on how you're looking at First Nations representation. From the perspective of the First Nations listed off, that you listed off, none of them are treating agents, so that's something I'd want to be sensitive about. Also, if we're talking about Alberni Valley representation, we do have the city providing representatives separately, as well as Kupachesset and Tishat, which are residents of the Valley as well. So I thought Director Sparrow and Beckett and Mastrangelo provide a diverse enough, but also a focused appointment. It's not to say anything against anybody. It's just, it seems like that group would be a good group to have that representation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Steer.
I was just going to reiterate what Director Jack just spoke of in terms of the Alberni Valley representation from the city, and then from the West Coast, both Tofino and Ucluelet will be represented separately. So in terms of fairness and equity, I believe this is a good solution.
Thank you, Director Steer. Any other final comments or questions before we vote on the motion?
Just a point of order. There is a second part of the motion that was not read out, and I don't know if that was intentional.
Sorry, I just forgot. I have to look for it now. I'm a bit ahead. Could you read it out while I'm looking for it?
Yes, please, go ahead, Heather.
Okay, that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors appoint Director Sparrow, Beckett, and Mastrangelo to the Transportation Advisory Committee and adopt the terms of the committee terms of reference as amended to include representation of health interests.
Thank you, Heather. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And I'm sure the representatives will do a great job. Okay, next on the agenda is the Accessible British Columbia Act requirements update to ACRD board. Heather.
Thank you. So in June, I advised the board of our legislative requirements to develop an accessibility plan for the regional district, including the requirement to form an accessibility committee. Since I presented to you in June, I've met with City of Port Alberni staff to consider the possibility of partnering on the accessibility project together to share costs, but also to share an accessibility committee, given that we'll be asking for volunteers from the community and we'll be pulling from the same volunteer pool. So staff at the city are open to the idea. And if the board is supportive of inviting the city to participate, the city council will consider this matter in September. Once we have that direction, if the board and city would like to partner, we'll move forward in putting out a request for proposal to hire a contractor to help us lead the development of an accessibility plan. We will also put out an expression of interest to solicit volunteers for the committee, which needs to be at least 50% of volunteers with a disability or those that support those with disabilities. We anticipate being successful in receiving $4,000 from the Disability Alliance BC, and we will apply to MIA to utilize about $10,000 of our risk management funds to pay for this project. And then the remainder of the cost for developing this plan will be pulled from general government. So I've attached the terms of reference for this committee. And then the board recommendation today is to endorse the creation of this committee, to approve the terms of reference and appoint a director and alternate director to this committee, and to invite the city to participate with us.
Thank you, Heather. Is there any questions on this motion? Dr. McClellan.
Yeah, we're talking about people with physical disabilities or
All types of disabilities. It could be vision, hearing, neurodiverse, all
okay.
types.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Have you, is the, I can't remember the name of their university in down here, disability management. Is that involved? Are they involved in this or not?
They're not involved per se, but I have thought of them inviting them to participate in the committee. Each organization, like each local government, is required to develop this plan. So they may be a good person or a group to join us.
Okay.
Director Cote.
Thank you. Just on that, Wolfgang Zimmerman was one of the founding members, got the university going. He's been all over the world regarding disability and access. He's talked to me a couple of times about that. So I think he'd be a wonderful resource. I have some great suggestions on how to implement anything in our community. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Director Cote. So do we have anyone who would like to be appointed to the Accessibility Committee as a director and as an alternate? Dr. Sega, would you like to be appointed as a director on the board or the committee?
Yes, I'd like to either be director or on the board or alternate. Depends on other interests.
Thank you. Is anybody who would like to be an alternate? Dr. Sparrow, you'd like to be an alternate?
I can be an alternate, yes.
Okay, so I'll read out the motion. I move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors endorse the creation of the Accessibility Committee and approve the Accessibility Committee terms of reference, appoint Director Sega to the ACRD Accessibility Committee and appoint Director Sparrow as the alternate director, and invite the City of Port Alberni to partner on this project. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Director Cote. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the UBCM Regional C2C Program Funding Support Regional Supervisory Training. And Daniel was hoping to zoom in and speak on this, but he is not here. So Jenny is going to do it for him. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd be happy to speak on his behalf. So our CAO meets regularly with the other CAOs and executive directors, and they have found an opportunity for collaborating on a joint interest, and that is for supervisory training. So the ACRD has been sort of spearheading and facilitating this and has set up sessions in October for staff from all of the organizations to participate. So because this includes First Nations and is very good on relationship building, staff are recommending that the board support our application to UBCM for a C2C grant program. Happy to answer any questions.
Director Steer.
The screen just went black.
All of them?
Just one.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Now we're all black.
But you can hear us though, eh? Can you not hear us? Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you. I could see
Okay.
my screen. Just there. You're back.
Okay.
Fantastic. Does anyone have any questions for Jenny? Director Sega? Sorry, you're muted. Did you want to make the motion or did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to make the motion if there are no questions.
I'll second the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is a grant funding application. Terry, can you speak to this, please?
Sure. So another grant opportunity through the BC Local Government Infrastructure Grant Program. We are planning on doing a climate action plan, not for the entire region, but for the entire organization as part of our process. So this is just an application to try to get $10,000 from the province to assist us in this. It was already on the work plan for this year, but hoping to get some grant funding for it. Look, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Terry. Any questions? Would someone like to make the Director Jack?
I would just like to make the motion and say that I think I'm going to have to dip out in about 15 minutes.
Thank you. Could we get a seconder? Second by Director Cote. Any final questions or comments? Director Cote?
Thank you. Is this matching funding or would this cover the cost? Thank you.
It's matching funding, but we have another pot of grant funding from the province through the LGCAP funding that we can match. It's just we have more initiatives than we have money. So we're just trying to break out some of this work to see if we can get some other grant funding to support some of these projects.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is planning matters, and this is for electoral area directors. First is RC 23003, Valius and Lapsantium 2401 Grant Avenue, Long Beach. Alex, can you speak to this, please?
Happy to. Thank you. This is a rezoning application that you heard from 2401 Grant Avenue in the Millstream area of Long Beach. The property owners have applied to rezone the property to cottage residential RC2 district to allow for the construction of a single family dwelling and up to 4 rental cottages on the property. At the July 26th meeting, the board gave bylaws P1477 and P1478 3 readings following public notice being given. No correspondence was received following that public notice period. Agency referral requests were sent out, and the responses that we received expressed no concerns with proceeding. So at this time, the applicants have satisfied all conditions of rezoning, and staff recommend that the board adopt the 2 bylaws. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Director Sager, would you like to make the first motion, please?
Sorry, I move that bylaw 1477 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot zoning text amendment bylaw be adopted. And further that bylaw 1478 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Atlas Amendment bylaw be adopted.
Director Sager will vote on the first motion first and go to the next motion if that's okay. So the motion has been moved and seconded. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the first motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Director Sager has moved the second motion. Can I get a seconder for that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is RE 23001 Poye 6505 Fayette Road, Beaver Creek. Alex, can you speak to this, please?
Thank you. This is a rezoning application again for the property located at 6505 Fayette Road. The applicants intend to rezone the 5-acre property to acreage residential RA2 district, which would allow for subdivision into 4 lots with a 1-acre minimum lot size. The board considered this rezoning a first time on July 26th, where the board resolved to proceed with the neighbor notification process in order to advance without a public hearing, as this one is consistent with the Beaver Creek OCP. So notice was given on August 8th, and there was one letter of public correspondence that was received. This is the letter which proposes the development that is presented as a late item for the board to consider today. As this rezoning is consistent with the minimum lot size and the residential use designation in the Beaver Creek OCP, as I mentioned, and it's also consistent with similar developments that have been approved recently in the area. The staff recommendation is that the board proceed with 3 readings of bylaw P 1479. If the board wishes to delegate a public hearing to be held to gather additional public input on this application prior to further considering the bylaw, the appropriate motions would be to give bylaw P 1479 first reading and delegate a public hearing to be held by the director for electoral area E, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the board. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Director Roth, would you like to make the first motion, or do you have any comments or questions on this item?
No, I'd like to make the motion, please. I move that bylaw P 1479 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read a first time.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director Sparrow. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried.
I move that bylaw P 1479 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read a second time.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried.
I move that bylaw P 1479 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read a third time.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we're back to all directors. Agricultural Development Committee Terms of Reference Update. Alex will be speaking to this.
Thank you, Chair Haggard. The updated terms of reference for the Agricultural Development Committee are presented in the agenda for the board's consideration. These proposed updates would align the terms of reference with the ACRD's procedures bylaw and also better reflect the committee's support provided by the sustainability planner. The draft terms of reference were supported by the ADC at their last meeting on August 15th, and I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Director McClellan, would you like to make that motion?
Sure, I will make a motion to adopt this terms of reference.
Could I get a seconder to the motion? Second, moved by Director McClellan, second by Director Sega. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is food security, emergency planning and preparedness funding opportunity, regional food agricultural security. And Alex will be speaking to this as well.
Thank you. The Ministry of Agriculture and Food has announced a new grant funding program to support the coordination of both food security and emergency planning in communities. This grant presents an opportunity, we feel, for the regional district to study existing resources, needs, and food production capacity in the region in the event of emergency or natural disaster. And we'll provide up to $150,000 to develop emergency plans and preparedness strategies. Pursuing this grant opportunity was recommended by the Agricultural Development Committee at their last meeting earlier in August. If the board directs staff to prepare an application through this program, staff will invite First Nations and member municipalities within the region to partner on the project and provide support where possible as a regional initiative. So we think it's a good idea that we pursue this opportunity, and staff recommendation is to do so. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions from the directors? Dr. Steer?
Yes, thank you through the chair. Yeah, Alex, in terms of, do you need support from the municipalities, for example, on the West Coast in this grant application, or right now this is step one and then later on you'll be reaching out?
Precisely, yeah. This would be step one. And if the board directs us to pursue this, we will be sending letters to the member municipalities.
Thank you, Director Cote.
Thank you. Question to staff through the chair. So food security emergency planning and preparedness fund, if the regional district applies for the rural areas, could the municipalities or incorporated areas actually apply for their own as well?
Yes, I believe they can. They are eligible to apply. So Tofino, Euclid, and Port Alberni could apply. I'm not sure about the Treaty First Nations, but I think they're eligible as well.
Nice to know. Any other questions for Alex? Director Cote, would you like to make that motion?
I could make that motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to apply to the Food Security Emergency Planning and Preparedness Program for funding to explore regional food security and agricultural resilience from an emergency management perspective.
Moved by Director Cote, second by Director Jack. Any final questions or comments? Director Sega?
Would investigation into composting on the West Coast be a possible inclusion in this, in that the soil out here needs amendment and we don't have access to it?
Yes, certainly. I mean, I believe that relates to the agricultural capacity of the region. So, if that is a need that is identified, then I think that's something that this type of study would look at. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities Climate Leadership Steering Committee funding request. And Alex will speaking to this as well.
Sure, I'll just briefly speak to it. This relates to the delegation that was received earlier in the meeting. The committee has requested $5,900 in funding from the ACRD to continue their work, as Ben had mentioned, as an inter-regional facilitator and advocate for climate change in the coastal communities. The staff report and request letter are included in the agenda for your consideration.
Director Steer, because you're part of this committee, maybe do you want to add some comments to this?
Through the chair. Yeah, just in terms of some of the possible questions that had come up and may not have been articulated by Ben, where some of the work that has been done previously, just to give an indication, there has one of the reports that came out was a territorial analysis and survey of local government priorities for climate action as one of the actionable items. And then earlier on, during the later end of the pandemic, there was a summit that had brought together an action-oriented summit that brought together those municipalities and regional districts and First Nation communities around the climate return and resilience for those communities. And it was well attended. Over 150 people had attended those. So there was some real value in looking at this the best practices, some of the informations that can be shared between communities, because especially for the smaller regional districts and communities on the coast, where the pooling of those resources was felt to be of strong value, because they did not have the staffing capacities to be able to take this on their own. So there was real value in this, and the amount that was requested it was based on the population basis, and ours being one of the smaller ones. There's already been strong commitment from many of the regional districts, including Nanaimo Regional District as one of the leaders in the area. So I highly support it, and would look to the board to support it.
Thank you, Director Jack.
Yeah, I'd like to move the motion if that's possible. So I'll move that the Albany-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors support the Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities Climate Leadership Steering Committee by granting their funding request for $5,900 to retain the Community Energy Association in the position of secretary. Thank you.
Can I get a seconder? Second by Director Steer. Before we call for the motion, this is a question for Terry. Do you have the $5,900 allocated as a line item in our budget?
It was not a specific line item in our budget, but we do have room. Again, we did get money from the province for climate initiatives that is fairly wide open. And so we are planning on allocating some of that money towards this.
Thank you. Director Sega?
Through the chair to Director Steer, I'm just wondering, there is a lot of work being done on climate change through the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust. The Tlaquit First Nation has been working on getting sustainable energy to the West Coast. I'm just wondering whether these connections are all being made by this committee.
I can't speak to specific connections, Director Vega, but I certainly know that there's been a broad cross-section. A lot of the research work was based at the University of Victoria, and there was a very large contingent of people that have been tapped on the shoulder for those informations, but I wouldn't have specific information about the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust or Tlaquit First Nations participation in that.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments before call for the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have staff reports, meeting schedule for September 2023, building report for July 2023, monthly agreement and grant allocation report, June 22nd, 2023 to August 17th, 2023. Did anyone have any questions regarding these three reports? Seeing none, could someone make the motion that the Board of Directors receive the staff reports A through C? Moved by Director McClellan, second by Director Steer. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is committee reports. First is the Alberni Valley and Banfield Services Committee meeting from August 23rd, 2023, just this morning. So I just wrote down the highlights from the report this morning. First, we had a presentation from the transit planner regarding the regional transit plan. They are currently doing a review of the existing system, what is working well and what needs improvement. The next 3 months will be a public engagement process. And then from November to February 2024, BC Transit will develop a draft plan for review by the local governments. Secondly, the AV and Banfield Services Committee recommends that the Board of Directors enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Shuswap First Nation and the ACRD regarding the development of an equitable employment initiatives project. This will be a pilot project, and the long-term intent is to include all First Nations within the ACRD area. Then we have the AV and Banfield Services Committee recommends that the ACRD Board of Directors approve the creation of a Banfield Area Committee. Staff will bring forward a terms of reference to the ACRD Board for their consideration and approval. And lastly, the AV and Banfield Services Committee recommends that the ACRD Board of Directors supports the amendments to the Alberni tipping fee and regulation to reflect the results of the tipping fee review for the Alberni Valley Sort and Go Center. The proposed changes will begin in 2024. So when it comes to the board, I think it's going to come next meeting, is it, Jenny?
Well, as soon as we can. But yes, probably at the next meeting. Yeah, we'll process those things and get them back to the board as soon as possible.
So they'll be coming to the board sometime in September. How's that? Any questions regarding that report? Okay, so we're going to go to member reports. Firstly is 911 Corporation, Director Beckett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The 911 Corporation did not meet in the summer. However, further to a report that I gave regarding the June meeting, the UBCM is administering $60 million to support 911 service upgrades to the NG 911, which is the cellular service and primarily the identification of addresses. All local governments and Treaty First Nations received approximately $45,000 to support local preparedness. In discussions with Daniel the other day, he wanted to make sure that I alerted the board and made it known that it's important that this money not be used for anything other than GIS mapping for our region. So those folks that did, those communities that did receive the $45,000, it's critical that money gets returned to the ACRD so the ACRD can coordinate the GIS mapping for the region. And I don't know if Daniel is on. I know that he had a commitment, and if he is available to speak to it, great. But he wanted me to share that, and I know that I haven't articulated as well as Daniel could have done. But in sense, I see Terry's going to jump in and bail me out and help me, but I think I've got the essence of it, Terry.
Go ahead, Terry.
Sure, thank you. So the 4 treaty nations and our member municipalities and ourselves each receive $45,000. There is a lot of work to be done on a GIS standpoint in terms of house addressing. And so it's beyond the capacity of our one GIS person to take on this massive project that is required for the next gen 911 process. So the hope and the plan is that we are allowed to, based on the provincial funding, is that we will pool all the funding at the ACRD, and then we would either contract or hire to get that extra resource to make our information accurate, to be providing that link. So it would be kind of a one-time catch-up project for house numbering. Right now, we don't do house numbering for like City of Port Alberni, District of Tofino, District of Ucluelet. However, because we are the 911 participant on behalf of all these areas, we are responsible to ensure the addressing is correct. A lot of the smaller areas don't have a GIS capability happening, from what I understand. So we are getting together from a staff level to reach out to these to our members and find out a way forward. But that's kind of the summary of it. And in the meantime, we'd heard some rumors that some of the organizations were like, well, we're not involved in 911, we're going to send the money back. Please don't do that. Let's work together and make sure we can get this up and running so that our 911 can transition smoothly.
Thank you, Terry. Will you be able to keep the board updated on that if you need a motion from us later on, or?
No, that's fine. We were planning on coming back hopefully in September, maybe not the first meeting, but likely the second one, to talk about how we've decided to approach this collectively with everyone.
That's great news. Thank you so much. Vancouver Island Regional Library Director Cote.
I have no report at this time.
Thank you. Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce Director Minions.
No report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Air Quality Council, Port Alberni Director Sparrow.
They have no meetings in the summertime. They're going to have one. The first one is going to be September 17th, which is the same week we will be at the UBCM, so I will not be able to make it. I hope to have some minutes from the meeting and present them to the next board meeting after that date.
Thank you. West Coast Aquatic Board, Director Steer.
No report.
Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, Director Cote.
Thank you. UBCM is coming up very shortly. AVICC has a lunch, and our invitation to Premier Eby was accepted. We were always fortunate to have Premier Horgan attend our AVICC convention and our luncheon at UBCM. So hopefully this continues. Our transition of our sole employee, our executive coordinator, is complete. So Teresa Dennison is now fully employed by AVICC, which changed. UBCM also has elections. And I would please ask for anyone attending to consider voting for our AVICC members to be able to sit on that executive committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee, Director Roth.
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Tawaska Public Advisory Group, Director Sparrow.
Hi, I'm going to contact them this week, and they're going to set orientation for me in the next couple of weeks. And then there's a meeting coming up after that, and I will have some information for you as soon as I can.
Thank you. Agricultural Development Committee, did Director Brokaw leave you any information, Director McCormick?
Yeah, he left a little note here. Agricultural Development Committee, I just got to be able to see. Meeting held on the August 15th, looking for grant funding for food security, which we've already voted on. And there are always irrigation concerns and looking for volunteers for the fall fair.
Actually, just to add to that, I did see on Facebook a plea for volunteers for the fall fair. So if anybody is watching this and you have some time, please volunteer, because we want to keep that event in our community. Any other reports from directors? Seeing none, could I have a motion that the Board of Directors receive the members' reports? Moved by Director Steer, seconded by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is our air reports. Banfield, Director Beckett.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. About 3 weeks ago, Daniel came down, spent a couple of days here in Banfield, touring with myself and the president of the Banfield Community Affairs Society. And we physically visited and toured all of the challenges that we have, locations where there's challenges, and also more importantly, where we saw for some incredible opportunities for our community. And then we finished up a meeting with the Banfield Marine Sciences Center. On next Monday, we have Minister Osborne coming to town, and we're hosting a meeting with Josie. Daniel will be down for that meeting as well. And you know, one of the things, and it's great to have her in to discuss a number of, again, challenges and opportunities. One of the things that I'd like to bring up with Josie is that we've been impacted by the road closure, as many of the Valley and West Coast communities have been challenged from a tourism perspective. And I understand that Premier Eby, either yesterday or today, identified that the tourism folks in the interior may be receiving some form of compensation. And that's something I think we should follow up with Josie on Monday to see if that could apply to some of our communities and some of our tourism industries. Other than that, it truly is the salmon capital of the world here in Banfield these days. And I welcome all of you down to enjoy our community and fishing.
Thank you for that update. Go for it, Director McClellan.
Yeah, the harvest is going, and this was from the director. Harvest is ongoing for many of the residents, and we're starting to see some of that benefit, even with the drought. The bears are hungry and looking to fatten up for the winter, so take appropriate action and be careful. And on September the 10th, Beaufort is having a town hall meeting at the Beaver Creek Hall. This is not an ACRD meeting, but rather an informal gathering of residents. And that's his report.
Thank you, Long Beach. Director Sega. Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Oh, thank you. I don't know why sometimes I can use a space bar, sometimes I can't. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just wanted to say that the bike path connector has been completed. So now you can actually bike from Ucluelet to Tofino on bike path. It is freshly paved and it's being well used. Unfortunately, at the junction, there is still a problem because of so many access roads there. And because there aren't bollards preventing cars from going onto the newly paved roads, that has become an issue. So there's still stuff at the junction, Tofino-Ucluelet Highway 4 junction there that need to be sorted out. Oh, and then also Barclay Main, there are closures on Barclay Main as the road is being improved. The culverts are going in, the road is being widened, which is a great improvement, but people need to be aware that there are closures to accommodate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sprout Lake. Director Cote.
Thank you. So Sprout Lakes, we're in our tourism season. It does seem like there is a lot of tourists, but the lake is a lot quieter than it has been. And I'm sure that that has to do with the road closure. So the Sprout Lake Community Association held their 70th anniversary of their society being formed. We had over 250 participants come and celebrate with us. So many thanks go to all the sponsors, the volunteers, the event coordinator, Tamara Thorpe, the Sprout Lake Volunteer Fire Department for cooking the barbecue, and everybody who helped to set up and clean up. It was a really good event, well received by the community. Good to see a lot of the old directors show up. Yeah, it was just a really great event. This week, Tuesday, I had a meeting that West Coast Aquatic hosted regarding the SOMAS Fish Flow Committee to discuss the Sprout Lake weir plates, which were not replaced this spring. Catalyst owns the plates. It gets complicated because there's a lot of approvals that have to be put in place with fisheries and Ministry of Environment, the province, federal, and Mosaic, and Catalyst is the owner of the weir. Also, there's the sweep that accumulates debris. So big concerns from the community. I've heard from them all spring, all summer, asking when the weir plates were going to be replaced because the lake is exceptionally low. People are getting damage to their property. Their water lines are going into the mud. Docks are being high centered, and that creates an issue with environment for the shoreline, and creeks are drying up. So if there was water that had been held back, maybe some of these problems wouldn't have occurred. So the meeting was to talk about an annual maintenance plan to have the plates put in the spring and taken out in the fall to prevent, hopefully prevent flooding for residents. So going forward, we're asking for information to be provided and consideration for the residents of Sprout Lake to have identified the issues that occur with the lake level and the maintenance with the wear plates and the sweep. Thank you.
Thank you, Beaver Creek, Director Roth.
Hi, yes. During the past few weeks, a number of people in my area have expressed concerns regarding our drinking water. Drinking water recently came to the forefront when an Alberni Valley News report notified Beaver Creek residents that Port Alberni City Council was not pleased that Beaver Creek pays less for bulk water than city residents pay for their water. The city's CAO recommended looking into the bulk water agreement and costs. Beaver Creek buys bulk water only from the city. The amount does not include operational costs related to pump stations, water storage, disinfection, or the water distribution system. Beaver Creek residents pay those costs to the ACRD. Regardless, now there's issues surrounding the city supplying bulk water to Beaver Creek. Back in October 2011, Beaver Creek residents voted in favor of converting drinking water to a service area of the regional district. According to an Alberni Valley News report dated April 12, 2012, a pump station between the city of Port Alberni and Beaver Creek was originally built as a temporary measure to help Beaver Creek deal with the repeated boil water advisory. At the time, Beaver Creek residents understood the water distribution system would be upgraded to meet Island Health's water treatment requirements. Beaver Creek was looking at installing a filtration system or some other kind of secondary water treatment. That didn't happen. Instead, the ACRD entered into an agreement with the city to buy bulk water. The agreement is now about 10 years old. As it stands now, Beaver Creek still maintains the intake and pump station at the foot of Mackenzie Road. The water license for a community water system on the Stamp River is also still in place. I'd like to look at the cost of treating our own drinking water and becoming self-sufficient. The timing is good to look at the issue. Cherry Creek also needs to address compliance with Island Health's drinking water requirements. Perhaps we can create a new service area that could supply safe drinking water to both Beaver Creek and Cherry Creek. As well, I understand the city of Port Alberni does not have a backup supply, which is also a requirement of Island Health. The city has a deferral in place. Perhaps Cherry Creek and Beaver Creek could be that backup supply. The two of us could create a reciprocal agreement with the city that could work well for all of us. I plan to talk further about drinking water and a rural regional water system with Cherry Creek and the Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Roth. Cherry Creek, Director Sparrow.
Yeah, thank you. Talking about water, Cherry Creek, it does have on their level 2 water restrictions right now, and they're having a problem with high organic levels in their fluorine area. So the water out there is not exactly great right now, but that's okay. In the vein of the Beaver Creek too, I'm sort of on the, I don't want to put a bunch of eggs in one basket. So if it ever came down to it, I would like to see Cherry Creek to stay independent with their water system for the exact reason of you don't have control over the bulk cost. That is done by a different organization, and now you're at the mercy of that organization on whatever they see fit. So you can't control your tax base or your costs if you do that. So it'd be something to look at in the future. Other not much happening in Cherry Creek. They are anticipating, looking forward to the meeting. I hope it's going to come up soon, the OCP meeting. I talked about May about this in June, and they said September was the month. Daniel's not there right now. He was going to get back to me in regards to what day that would be or what month that would be. I'm hoping for September. If not, I will have to see if I have to go towards a town hall style meeting like they do in Beaufort and Beaver Creek, because we need to get word out to the people of the district. And I've been waiting long enough, and I need to move to get people informed. So I'm hoping Daniel will get back to me as soon as he can. He's off right now, apparently. And we can move forward with that OCP meeting, and we can get going in a direction I'd like to see us going. The second thing I was looking at was the voting bylaw, which Daniel said he would look at for this meeting after he's not there and John Jack has gone away. So I am hoping that they were going to come up with a plan for this meeting. If not, I hope they come up with a plan for the next meeting so we can move on the voting agenda too, because some things here just seem to be dragging their feet. And if they keep dragging their feet, I will just start making motions to put it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sparrow. Next is the City of Port Alberni. The city continues to negotiate with their preferred developer for the Somas property. Several of the buildings and equipment have been sold to either reuse or repurpose. Some of the buildings and equipment that are no longer of any value have been sold as scrap metal. And now a lot of the buildings are down. You can start to see a vision for the property. At the last council meeting, council approved to reconfigure the blocks on Argyle Street between 1st and 3rd Avenue. The streetscape will include wider sidewalks and dedicated bike lanes and will go from angle parking to parallel parking. Do you have anything to add to that, Director Minions?
Thank you for the update. No, nothing to add, and my internet is pretty choppy today, so we'll.
Thank you. District of Tofino, Director Steer.
Great, through the chair. Yes, so the wastewater treatment plant, our largest capital project, probably will be in our history, is coming along. The conveyance and the outfall on time, on budget, but the disruptions have been, let's just say, with all the other projects, it's been intense. We have a water main project right up on Neil Street, which is adjacent to the main street. That's going on in a reconstruction of our tennis courts and slash pickleball courts, we'll now call it. So that project is ongoing as well. Another road disruption. We are still in stage 3 water restrictions, but the good news on that is with an incredible community, visitor and business participation, we have lowered our consumption rates to the targeted 1,800 cubic meters, and that's been maintained. So a big shout out to the community visitors and the businesses that have been participating. Our little multi-use path, which each year we do upgrades to bring it up to those standards, just was completed almost at the exact same time as the ACRD's component. As alluded to by Director Beckett, the impacts of tourism and the closures have been a point of concern for many of the businesses in our community, and the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Tofino have been working directly with the provincial government on some of those issues. And then last, so another good news, the Tofino Housing Corporation, Corporation of the District of Tofino, one of our housing projects is the intake for the application process has been completed. Once again, overwhelming interest in it. That's a 35-unit apartment block that should have tenants in by December. The second block, approximately 35 units in that Headwaters South. That should hopefully be completed and tenancy in by spring of 2024.
Thank you. District of Ucluelet, Director McEwen.
Thank you. I attended the Resort Communities Collaborative Mayors meeting at 2 o'clock today, which is why I had to leave you all for a little bit. And we only meet 4 or 5 times a year, but this meeting was to talk about the meeting that we will have all together at UBCM in Vancouver next month. In case you don't know, there are 14 resort municipalities in the province, and Ucluelet and Tofino are 2 of them. And so most of that meeting was to discuss how we can collaborate together to let the Ministry of Tourism know how important the MRI program is, and just sort of have one voice as 14 communities for the tourism industry. So that was a great meeting. We have no water restrictions. We are just encouraging residents to take care, don't waste water. We are doing stormwater system upgrades along Peninsula Road this fall, so that's a big undertaking, but a lot of that infrastructure is collapsing and really needs to be redone. And we got a grant for majority of it. And we got our application in for the Housing Accelerator Fund, which the deadline was just last week, I believe. And looking forward to hopefully, fingers crossed, getting that grant. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Hawaii First Nations, unfortunately, Director Jack had to leave, so he's no longer on the call. Next is Tokoroq Nation, Director Johnson.
Hi, just have a couple things. So we're in a design stage for a government building that we're going to have out at Secret Beach. It's a couple of years away, but it's pretty exciting. And then we have an election on October 6th, and I am running again. And we have a lodge we're building out at Makoa that is meant to house citizens who come to visit for a week or a weekend, or possibly for workers, summer workers. So that might be ready by spring. So that's exciting too. That's all.
Thank you very much. And Director Coots is also away today, so no report from him. Next is Ukiwa Government Director, Ms. Mastrangelo.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple things. One, we did finish our by-election, and that allowed us to get the remaining 2 individuals on our team, which is Geraldine Tucci and Kirk McCarthy. In our infrastructure and homes, we've finally, I mean, it's been 3 years since since COVID, been trying to get some more homes put up, just small homes. So we are moving forward with that project, and it's really exciting for our community, and will really help get us in the direction of being able to bring more people home, and also be able to have homes for those that are joining our government on the work side to build that capacity. Tourism, our tourism has been all right in mind of everything that's happened. And there's also a small bike path that's starting or just about finishing to be completed up by Mount Ozard. So that's kind of exciting for our people as well. And another item that we're exploring, we're just moving into a potential idea of looking at new infrastructure for wastewater treatment. And it's a very alternative solution, and it would be very new to Canada and the first one in this province. I think there's one other being explored in Alberta. Yeah, the company is called Sea Green, and it'll be interesting to see if we move forward with this. So, yeah. And that's it for right now. Sorry, I thought I saw a hand from someone, so.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the updates on the area reports. Could I get a motion, Board of Directors receive the area reports? Moved by Director McClellan, second by Director Cote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. No unfinished business, so no late business. Any questions from the public? No. Any questions by participants or by email?
No, we've received none.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting to the public as per the community charter sections. Oh, you said no. Can you just say your name and what area you're from? And
My name is Charlene. I'm from Cherry Creek area. And I do not know if the ACRD directors have already signed in with the UNDRIP that the UN has implemented. And I would just like to pass a little bit of information regarding the UNDRIP, which is not beneficial to anybody here at all, because it gives the right for the UN to take over all of our properties. So that I just wanted to pass this on for information for people.
Is that okay? Maybe just leave it at the end and we'll take one on our way out if that works for you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much for that information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Has the ACRD already approved voting positively on the UNDRIP?
So?
No, it's not. It can't be 5 years ago. I know the city of Port Alberni have approved it. So that's good that you have not yet approved that. Very, very good. Research it. It's very important. It involves all of us.
Great, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting to the public as per the Community Charter, Sections 91F, law enforcement, if the board considers that the closure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment. Under 91J, information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. 21C of FOIPPA harms significantly and competitive position or interferes significantly with the negotiating position of third party. Could I get a seconder, please? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to recess so that we can do the hospital district.
I think we do it in camera first.
Oh.
On the agenda, it says in camera.
I think that the proper procedure is that you do what you did to say that we're going in camera, but then we recess to go to the hospital board meeting. And then we rise from recess and go back to our meeting.
Do you know, Heather?
Janice, are you listening? Just
Yes, we'll be doing the hospital district right now. We need a motion to go into the hospital district agenda, and then we would be reading the motions to go in camera. So we've just moved over the hospital right now.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go back.
Thank you.
Okay, so skip this for now.
Yeah, come back to the.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to recess and go into the hospital meeting. Do we need a motion for that?
So moved.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion carried. Do we need a break? Okay. So I'd like to call to order the Alberni-Clutha Regional District Board of Directors Hospital Board, Regional Hospital District Board of Directors meeting. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and recognize we're conducting this meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Hupa-Chesed-Chisot First Nations. We're grateful for the opportunity to do so. And we also have directors calling in from other territories, and we'd like to recognize those First Nations and acknowledge them with our respect and our gratitude. We have the agenda. Any additions from the directors? Any additions from the corporate officer?
None, thank you.
Adoption of minutes, any errors or omissions?
Move the adoption.
Thank you. Move to adopt, any seconder? Moved by Director Cote, second by Director Steer. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the Board of Directors meeting, July 26, 2023. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion that the minutes of the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional Hospital District Board of Directors held on July 26, 2023 be adopted?
Move adoption.
Moved by Director Cote, seconded by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. No delegations, no correspondence. Go right into reports. Banfield Health Center, Director Beckett.
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Alberni-Clayoquot Continued Care Society, Director Sega. You're muted, Director Sega.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
You can.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, the CARP accreditation is just being completed, and our AGM is to be held in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. West Coast Native Healthcare Society Director Cote.
No report.
Tofino General Hospital Director Steer.
The site director was going to email me, but it hasn't come in time, so no report.
Thank you. Alberni Quaquot Health Network Director Cote.
No report. We will be reconvening in September.
Actually, our coordinator's been working on a strategic plan, doing the interviews. Yeah. Oh, did you? West Coast General Hospital, no report. I did want to talk about doctor recruitment, but I'll wait until our CEO is here to add to that. Any other reports from directors? Could I get a motion? The Regional Hospital Board of Directors receive reports A through G. Moved by Director Steer, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. No unfinished business, no late business. Any questions from the public? No.
No questions from the public.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Director Steer, second by Director Sagal. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Can we take a 5-minute break before we do our in-camera meeting?
Motion to rise.
Okay, motion to rise. I'm so lost right now and tired. I'll second that. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break.